Amelia Grant's phone was still recording when the cops found it, capturing her final breath, her killer's shadow, and a secret she had planned to use to destroy the man she once trusted. The night was colder than usual for early spring, and the air carried a strange stillness over Pinebrook Forest. When the police received the call about an abandoned car deep in the woods, they expected a routine case, maybe a breakdown or a lost driver. But when they arrived, the scene told a different story. The silver sedan stood on the edge of the trail, its headlights piercing through the fog, illuminating a narrow path swallowed by trees. The driver's door hung open, and the faint hum of the engine filled the silence. Inside, the seats were smeared with mud, the dashboard lights flickered, and on the driver's seat lay a cracked phone, its camera still recording. Detective Harris picked it up carefully, the glass cold and sticky with dried blood. The screen showed a dim, shaky image of the car's interior, as if the phone had been dropped moments earlier. A faint sound came from the speaker, rustling leaves, hurried footsteps, and heavy breathing that quickened every second. Then came a distant scream that sliced through the quiet. The camera fell sideways, capturing only the blur of forest floor and a single shoe lying in the dirt. The recording continued for 6 more minutes, filled only with the rhythmic chirping of crickets and the low buzz of the car's engine before the battery finally died. The car was registered to Amelia Grant, a 27-year-old nurse who had been reported missing 2 days earlier after finishing a late shift at St. Mary's Hospital. Her co-workers said she left around midnight, smiling, holding her phone, and mentioning she was meeting someone briefly before heading home. She never arrived. When officers traced her phone's GPS, it led straight to the forest. Now the phone was the only thing left of her, still running, still recording, as if waiting to tell its story. The ground near the car showed signs of struggle, broken branches, deep shoe prints, and a trail of blood leading into the trees before vanishing completely. The keys were still in the ignition, but the passenger seat held a strange item. A small notepad torn at the edge with the words asterisk, "Meet me here, don't tell anyone," asterisk scrawled in blue ink. For the officers standing in the darkness, the scene felt unnervingly staged, like someone wanted them to find it exactly this way. And yet the fear was real. The blood was real, and Amelia Grant was gone. What haunted them most wasn't what they found in the car, but what they heard in that final recording, the sound of someone else breathing just behind her, moments before the attack began. The investigation into Amelia Grant's disappearance quickly turned from a missing person case into something far more complex. Detectives began by tracing her movements in the 48 hours leading up to the night she vanished. What they found painted a picture of a woman living 2 lives, one public, one deeply hidden. To everyone at St. Mary's Hospital, Amelia was a quiet nurse who worked long shifts, helped patients, and kept to herself. Her social media was minimal, showing only photos of coffee cups, sunrise views from her apartment window, and an occasional post about charity work. But beneath that calm image was a side of Amelia no one suspected. Digital forensics uncovered a secret account registered under a false name. The account belonged to an anonymous online page known locally for posting hidden scandals about Pinebrook's resident, exposing affairs, corruption, and crimes that had never been reported. The information shared there was disturbingly accurate, suggesting someone on the inside had access to files that were never meant to be public. The IP address of that page traced back to Amelia's apartment. Suddenly, the young nurse who vanished in the forest was no longer just a victim. She was a whistleblower. Her posts had begun targeting powerful figures, including police officers, town officials, and even the hospital where she worked. One of her last uploads accused an unnamed hospital executive of using patients for profit. The comment section exploded with speculation, but the post was deleted within hours. That same day, Amelia stopped responding to messages. Security footage showed Amelia at a gas station shortly after leaving work the night she disappeared. She appeared calm, buying coffee and fuel, unaware of the tall man standing a few feet behind her. He wore a dark hoodie, his face hidden, but the camera caught one small detail: a hospital ID badge clipped to his jacket. The video ended with Amelia returning to her car and driving toward the forest road where her vehicle was later found. Detectives tried to identify the man, but no one at St. Mary's matched the description. Several staff members, however, admitted they had seen Amelia arguing with someone in the parking lot a week earlier, though no one could recall his face. What unsettled investigators most was the growing realization that Amelia hadn't just stumbled into danger. She had provoked it. Someone she exposed might have decided to silence her before she revealed the next secret. The search of Amelia Grant's apartment revealed a life meticulously organized on the surface but chaotic beneath it. Every drawer was neatly arranged, her medical files labeled, and her fridge half empty, as if she never planned to stay long. Yet detectives sensed something hidden. During a second sweep, a young officer noticed faint tape marks under her desk. When they peeled back a loose wooden panel, they discovered a small USB drive wrapped in black electrical tape. Inside that drive lay hundreds of files that would explain why Amelia had vanished. The contents were horrifying. There were spreadsheets filled with patient names, medical records marked transferred, and payment logs showing large sums wired to private accounts overseas. Most shocking of all were confidential reports revealing that several deceased patients had never been declared dead at all. They had disappeared from the hospital without explanation. One name repeated across the documents was Dr. Leonard Rives, the hospital's director. Amelia had stumbled onto evidence of an illegal organ trafficking operation hidden behind the hospital's walls. The victims were often homeless, elderly, or without families, people whose absence would go unnoticed. It was clear that Amelia had been collecting evidence for months. Investigators found audio recordings on her computer where she described her fear of being watched. In one file, she mentioned planning to meet someone who claimed to have proof that could expose everyone involved. That meeting was set for the same night she disappeared. Detectives revisited the video found on Amelia's phone, analyzing every second frame by frame. In the background, faint headlights appeared through the trees just before her scream. There was a shadow moving toward her, followed by a voice, low, male, and calm. The sound of a car door slamming came next, then muffled shouting and the crunch of gravel. The final seconds showed a gloved hand reaching for the phone before it fell to the ground, the lens tilting just enough to catch a blurred outline of a man wearing a hospital badge on his sleeve. The evidence was enough for police to focus entirely on St. Mary's Hospital. They suspected Amelia's death wasn't random, it was planned. Someone inside the hospital knew she was collecting proof and decided to stop her before she could go public. But what detectives didn't know yet was that Amelia hadn't gone to the forest alone. Someone else had been waiting for her there, and that person was about to change everything. The arrest of Dr. Leonard Rives shook Pinebrook like an earthquake. For years he had been the town's most respected man, a hospital director, philanthropist, and family friend to many of the local officials. Now he was handcuffed, facing cameras as detectives escorted him from his mansion. The evidence from Amelia's USB drive and the phone footage seemed undeniable. Every trail led back to him. The town wanted justice, and the police believed they finally had their man. But as the case unfolded, small cracks began to appear in the story everyone thought was complete. During forensic analysis of the car and Amelia's belongings, technicians discovered something that didn't fit. The DNA samples found on the phone, the steering wheel, and the edge of the driver's seat did not belong to Rives. When the results came back, they revealed a match to someone unexpected, Evan Holt, a 29-year-old paramedic who had once been in a relationship with Amelia. Investigators had already spoken to him briefly during the early stages of the case, but he had seemed calm, devastated, and cooperative. He told them he had been on duty the night she vanished, with dispatch logs proving he was responding to a call on the opposite side of town. Still, the DNA was impossible to ignore. Detectives began digging deeper into his past with Amelia. Their relationship, once described as passionate, had ended bitterly 6 months earlier. Neighbors remembered hearing arguments late at night, followed by long stretches when Evan parked near Amelia's apartment, just sitting in his car. His coworkers described him as kind but obsessive, someone who took rejection hard. When police searched his apartment, They found a box hidden in his closet containing photos of Amelia, hospital schedules, and printouts from her anonymous blog. Despite the growing suspicion, something still didn't make sense. Evan's alibi checked out. His supervisor confirmed his presence on multiple emergency calls that night. Moreover, there was no clear motive for him to attack her over the hospital's crimes. He had no connection to Rives or the illegal operations. That led some detectives to suspect he might have been framed. Others believed he had helped her stage the meeting, unaware of the danger that awaited. Then, weeks later, a digital forensics specialist decrypted the corrupted end of Amelia's video recording. The final frames, barely visible before the file cut off, revealed a reflection that no one had noticed before. It wasn't just the attacker caught in the image. Standing beside him, partly hidden in the car window's reflection, was Amelia herself, alive, facing the camera. When the final seconds of the video were enhanced, the entire case unraveled. The reflection on the car window showed Amelia standing beside the man believed to be her attacker. Her face was visible, calm, and deliberate. It wasn't fear in her eyes, it was focus. She wasn't trying to escape. She was positioning the phone, adjusting the angle so that the scene looked chaotic and violent. The realization sent a shock through the investigation team. Amelia had been part of the event she was thought to be a victim of. She had staged her own disappearance. As detectives pieced together the timeline, the truth slowly surfaced. Amelia had been planning the hoax for weeks. She wanted to expose Dr. Rives publicly, but feared the legal system would bury her evidence. The plan was simple: fake an attack, release the murder video online, and disappear before anyone could trace it back to her. The fake crime would force national attention on the hospital scandal, and Amelia would vanish with a new identity, leaving her enemies destroyed. She even enlisted help, someone she trusted, to play the attacker on camera. But greed ruined everything. The man she hired wasn't just a participant. He realized the video could make him rich. He turned against her once he discovered the real files on the USB drive and demanded more money to keep quiet. The argument grew violent. The recording, meant to be staged, became horrifyingly real. The screams that detectives first thought were part of the act were Amelia's final cries as she tried to escape the man she brought there herself. He struck her, took the phone, and fled, leaving the device still recording in the dirt. For weeks, the forest kept it secret until a group of hikers stumbled upon a shallow grave nearly a mile from where the car was found. Inside lay Amelia's body, her hands wrapped tightly around the same USB drive she had fought to protect. The autopsy confirmed she died the night of the so-called attack. The hired man was later identified through the DNA trail, an orderly from St. Mary's Hospital with a history of theft, now vanished without a trace. When police closed the file, one chilling truth remained. Amelia had tried to manipulate justice by faking her own murder, but in doing so, she created the perfect trap for herself. The phone she set up to record her revenge ended up recording her own death, the proof of the deception and the evidence of her final mistake.